Hey, Inebri-ites, before we jump into today's podcast, I just want to thank today's sponsor. Airship Notebooks has been a long-time supporter of both the Inebri-art podcast and our figure drawing event located in downtown Plymouth. So we want to say thank you to Airship Notebooks. They supply sketchbooks for the attendees to our events and some of their fine liners. They're amazing, so we get to use their product, and we all love it. And, even when they're not our sponsor, we seek out their sketchbooks. And Airship seeks to provide creative tools to artists, writers, and other creative-minded individuals to help inspire them to be more creative and productive. If you need to be more creative and productive, run over to airship.store and check out what they have to offer. They have a selection of sketchbooks, notebooks, and fine liners. You can find everything you need to get your creative juices flowing there. And again, thank you to Airship Notebooks for continuing to support Inebri-art in both online and in real world. And let's get into that podcast. Welcome back, Inebriites. This is Andy, your host, as always. Today, I am joined by Mike Crain from, according to Wikipedia, the punk rock supergroup Dead Cross. I got to ask you about that because I thought that was kind of funny because I always think of supergroups as being like made up of household names, and I find like punk is not household at all. Like, can you have a supergroup in punk rock?
Apparently, but then again, yeah, I would have never thought that either. It's it's funny when people use the term I've heard, I'm not referring to myself,
Yeah.
but like you just said, household names, like the term rock star. Like I feel like that term like has gotten looser and looser over the years. You know what I mean? Because to me, rock stars were Mick Jagger, David Bowie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
People
yeah.
of that caliber, and that was it. Like,
Yeah.
that you were either up there or you're not. You're in a band.
It's funny because like I think of back when I was married, my ex loved reality television, and she'd watch like
oh man,
Celebrity. Oh my, yeah, but it'd be like Celebrity Apprentice or whatever, and I'm like, who are these people? And she'd be like, oh, this person's from that reality show. I'm like,
oh,
how are they celebrities if all they do is reality shows? Like, it's
totally.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. That shit is so annoying. Oh, he's a celebrity. Oh, really? Where would I have seen him on this reality show? Stop right there.
Yeah, he's on TikTok.
That's not fucking. Give me a break. They didn't do anything to earn that. They were selected.
Right. It's always just a weird, interesting thing when. But I mean, you're in a popular band. I mean, you must get recognized at points. Like, is there that? Do you have that like imposter syndrome?
What is that? Imposter syndrome?
So imposter syndrome is kind of like where um it happens a lot. So it's kind of the feeling that at some point someone's going to come in and be like, you don't belong here.
Oh,
these are talented people, and somehow you lucked your way in. Like, do you ever have that?
Way more. Oh yeah, fuck yeah. My entire life. But oh yeah, definitely playing with Dave for the first times, playing with Mike, maybe even early on playing with Justin, even though him and I have known each other since we were fucking kids, but obviously he found success in music, way before I did because I found drugs instead. But yes, I think definitely on stage. The first Dead Cross show, first couple, I was like, oh, and in some studio gigs I've been hired for too. I'm like, man, they're gonna find out.
Yeah,
People are gonna find out. I'm a fucking fake. I'm
I've
phony.
had people like call meetings, and I'm like, why do you want to
Yep.
talk to me? And they're like, oh, I want your expertise, and I'm like, really? Like, it's
Yeah.
just, like I'm just an idiot behind a microphone.
Yo,
It's
dude,
really,
100%, man. I'm still that fucked up kid who likes skateboarding and punk and metal who plays a guitar. Like why does anyone want to talk to me? I'm just a fan,
yeah.
I'm just a fan of music.
So what was the music that first got you into wanting to pick up a guitar and
Kiss when I was 4 years old.
really? Are you
Yeah.
still a Kiss fan?
Not as
Okay,
much. That you know what I
because I
mean?
didn't want to shit on Kiss fans because I can't stand like I felt like Kiss was kind of like because I grew up in the '90s and I always felt like Kiss was kind of like a big letdown because they looked badass and I felt like their music was kind of pop.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Um, I mean, as a kid, like their marketing was on point.
Oh
I mean, they
yeah, for
were
sure.
fucking geniuses, man.
Yeah,
They didn't even really need to play. Like that shit sold itself.
yeah, they
So
could just come out on stage.
they look so badass. But that what was I think Kiss Alive, uh all of those. We had all those around the house, and my mom or I don't remember. I was so young, but yeah, looking at those album covers, I was like, whoa, whoa, these guys are evil. They
Yeah,
look so fucking cool. But yeah, I mean, there is a handful of songs like the Detroit Rock City. That song's fucking great. Like there are a few that hold up pretty
yeah,
good, But so yeah, the first intrigue would have been from Kiss when I was really little.
yeah.
And then I started putting on my own little fake concerts when I was 4, 5 years old
Hmm.
with an acoustic, and I would just play along to the record,
Yeah,
not even really playing, just pretending I'm playing.
yeah.
And and I remember my grandfather at the time. He this was okay. This is I was in San Jose. That's the first place my mom and I moved to California when I was a child. And my grandfather worked. He was working in Silicon Valley in the '70s.
Yeah.
He was a smart cookie. He was like ahead of the curve already, and he could get dry ice from one of his
Oh,
jobs.
cool. Yeah.
I don't know how he did it. So that he would bring home dry ice, and then I could put on fake Kiss concerts.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super rad.
So it sounds like your
Yeah,
family was supportive from the get-go.
at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time, that was like before it got bad. You know what I mean? Like there was some good years, and then it went sideways. But my dad always played in bands. My
Yeah.
parents were really young, so even then, my dad was in bands. Um, so I've been around the band culture my entire life, like going with him to his practices, to his gigs, helping him load up his drums, all of it. Yeah.
So going through that as a kid, do you think you had a better idea of how much work is involved opposed to,
A
say a
little bit.
kid,
Yep.
because you saw the backside of it all?
Yep. I did for sure. You see like the inner workings of a band, and you realize it's a fucked up relationship between a bunch of people and the politics. And so I knew very well, like I had a really good idea of like, oh, it's not, you're not just on stage getting attention,
Hmm.
there's a lot that goes into it. And yeah, yeah. And then I started my first bands 16, 17. Yeah, I feel like most of my life I've been in rehearsal spaces.
Yeah.
Most of my free time has been with a guitar in a room with other dudes making music.
Hmm.
Like that's, if there's dues, I've paid them. Like
So let
Yeah.
me ask you, because this always irritates me when someone says it, and I try not to use the word, but how do you feel about the word talent? Because I feel like when someone says, "Oh, this person's so talented," it just really doesn't even
I
acknowledge how much work they've put into it.
That's true, but I think maybe there is a natural. Some people are better at things. Some people pick certain things up quicker than others, for sure. So there's definitely talent coupled with a work ethic. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the things. Like it's not just one. It's definitely not just one. You need all the things to get there. I'm sure. And just as a horrible example, I'm sure that you know for Kobe Bryant, it wasn't just, oh, I'm really good at this thing. Like
Yeah.
that dude fucking worked his ass off too. So, but I think there is some degree of maybe natural ability, natural talent, or yeah, you know what, for sure. Like Prince, I mean, that guy, he had an ear as a child. Like that guy could already, he was writing fucking killer pop songs really young,
Yeah.
without a whole lot of life experience. So I'm sure there's some natural talent involved, definitely.
Did you feel that that life experience in general is kind of the key to writing music, is the most important thing? Because I mean, I remember
Good question.
friends bands in high schools, and at the time you're like, oh, they're kick ass, and then you kind of listen back and you're like, I mean, they were kids, you know.
Yeah, yeah. What was the question again?
I mean, how much do you rate that life experience? Do you feel like your
Oh,
music writing gets better as you get older, or is there kind of like a sweet spot? I feel like everyone's musical tastes hit like a sweet spot kind of in their teens and early 20s, so that becomes like your music. And yeah, you'll like new stuff on, but I feel like there's something about that age that when you're experiencing music it's more visceral, but like as you're writing music,
yeah.
does age help? Because no offense, you don't look like a young dude.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not a young dude. I don't know if it helps. I'm sure to the person writing it, it does, but maybe not to the listener. Because, I mean, how many bands do you know that kept going and their later records, are better than their early records? It's
Right.
not it's not that common. Um, Whatever Metallica's most recent record is, I'm pretty sure you can't put it next to Ride the Lightning and it holds up.
No, for sure. Or Master of Puppets. And it's
Yeah,
it's
you know
that
what I
kind.
mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's that kind of weird. Um, it's almost like there's a little bit of angst or ignorance to the world. Like you can be so opinionated when you're younger, and then you get older and be like, I
Yeah,
mean, like there's a lot of gray in the world, and that doesn't make for a good rock song.
yeah. Or,
Um,
or or just when you're younger and then you're hungry.
yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
fucking
for sure.
hungry. You
Yeah,
want that shit and you're poor or whatever the case may be. Um,
and you'll couch surf to play extra gigs, and
absolutely, you're
then you get
driven.
older, and you're like, I can't do that.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples.
Well, what was shit that you did when you were younger to like promote your band that just now you look back and be like, I'd never travel that long or play that gig in that.
Oh,
I mean, there's got to be like one place where you're like, I'd never play there again, but it was a gig for the band that I thought was going to be big. Or
hmm. I mean, early on, my band Festival Dead Deer, that was in our early 20s. We were all in our early 20s. Um, I had this shitty car. God, what car was that? It was like an 80s Chrysler.
yeah,
And we rented a U-Haul, stop it, you guys. Hold on a second.
Yeah, sure.
Stop. It was a U-Haul. It was like one of the storage containers that goes on top of the car.
Oh, yeah. It gets like strapped to the top.
I don't even know if they have them anymore.
Yeah.
But, and it was me, Chris, and Dylan. We were a trio, and we just did that. So we piled into the car, guitars hanging out of the back window and kick drum. And that was like that was West Coast Pacific Northwest tour. And I mean, it was so ramshackle, like one of the dates didn't even happen. God, what else? I remember we got in fights the whole way.
Between each other or with
Oh
people?
yeah. We were at each other's throat.
That's not the way to travel.
Yeah, in a car like that, crammed in. I mean, it was like in hindsight, like it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
For no money, of course, but that's kind of how it's supposed to be.
Right.
But I've even done that in my adult years. This band we had, Kill the Capulets. I remember we drove to Berkeley for no money, and I was like, and the van I had at the time, no AC, and it was fucking hot out on the 5. It's 400 miles.
Yeah.
We were just like, dude, this was ridiculous. And then even in Retox, like, dude, we were a hard touring band. Justin and I in that band. Fuck, man. And we lived in that van, and the United States is big.
Yeah,
there's some big fucking drives, in between towns, and drive all night long to go play for 5 people sometimes. That happens. To get right back in the van and drive all night again to get to a bigger city. Like that, dude, we did a lot of that. Lot.
When you had those shows that really clicked with a great crowd, did that kind of cover over all the shit that you went through?
Yeah, not financially, but yes.
Yeah.
For morale, absolutely. Like when you get to a town, it goes off. Yeah, for sure. Because then you're like, oh, that's why we do this.
Yeah. Was there a town that like you weren't expecting much, that, Poughkeepsie or some like podunk town that you just kind of rolled into not expecting anything and just had a great turnout?
God, let me think back.
I feel like the big towns like New York, there's just so many people you're bound to
Some of them are, those are givens. Those are usually always good. The A-list cities are always good. We played Tulsa once, and I wasn't expecting anything, and it was really rad. We played, God, somewhere in Texas, way out there. Denton, Texas, which I guess is a suburb of Dallas or something, and it was really rad.
So I would think Texas is country music.
Denver. The first time we played Denver, I was like, oh, we had a lot of good Denver shows. It depends on the venue too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Certain venues people don't go to, or they're not as likely to go to as if it's a house show or at a really good DIY punk venue. It depends on the band. It depends on the city. But we've had that, and then in Europe too, we've had that where I wouldn't remember the names of the towns, but it was like an out of the way town, or in the UK, where it was really good that I did. Oh, Bristol was always really. Leeds was always really, Leeds was always really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on a sec.
No worries.
Come on, you guys. All right, where are we at?
So now with Dead Cross, are you guys touring or like what's post-COVID touring like?
Um, Dead Cross is not touring. Hold on a second. Let me hang on. What?
Sure.
Pause for a minute. Hang
Yep.
on. All right, let's try it again. Dead Cross doesn't have any plans to tour at the moment. Patton really isn't in a position to tour at the moment. I think the focus is to let him kind of get better and decide what he wants to do,
Yeah.
But touring post-COVID, you mean just in general?
Yeah,
or?
in general, yeah. I mean, have you toured with other projects since then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week I'm about to fly to the East Coast with Fiddler.
Oh, nice.
I played lead guitar in Fiddler, and but we've done so far just San Diego, LA, San Francisco. But so that's like tour light, like
Yeah.
we just went to San Francisco, but they're a fairly good sized band with a strong following.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't played in a few years. So all their shows have been insane and sold out and really awesome. But we'll see what it's like when we fly to the East Coast. I mean,
Yeah, where are you guys playing on the East Coast?
Boston is what's that fucking place called?
Middle East?
No.
Yeah.
Isn't that gone? Didn't it close or something?
I kept hearing I thought someone was buying it, to be honest. I don't know, to be honest with you. I kind of lose track of whether that's open or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that place. I played there so many times. It's a great
Great venue.
Yeah. I can look it up where the Boston show is.
I'm sure I could find that.
Yeah, if you put Fiddler.
Yeah. There's a new venue here that everyone's talking about, Roadrunner, that I've got to check out. And it's like I think down by the waterfront or something. But is there I know I'm totally jumping
Okay.
questions here, but is there like one venue nationwide that like is like your favorite?
Ooh, man,
And why?
I don't know anymore. That's a good question. Well, in Los Angeles, I mean, it's the Echo is like home base. That's in Echo Park. That's like the place, that's like Middle East for Boston, I guess. That's our. I played there countless times in several bands. I think Live Nation owns it now, so it's a little different. Like now it's not independently owned anymore. I don't think.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So it's different. Yeah, everything's changed.
I feel like when that sort of thing happens, they kind of like remodel and take away some of its spirit, Like,
yeah, definitely.
Especially if I'm going to see like a hardcore or punk show, I don't want the place to be too nice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a good sound system is that's awesome.
Oh yeah, but
that helps. That enhances the experience.
It's like a good dive bar, though. You don't want a good dive bar to
yep
be pristine.
Yeah. What are some of the other? This Smell also here in Los Angeles. For San Diego, for me, it'd be the Casbah.
The place is called The Smell.
In LA, yeah, it's a DIY spot, an all ages place.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's in a really shitty alley in downtown, so that's why it's called The Smell.
I don't know if we have like DIY venues out here.
At least where are you at?
Just south of Boston. I'm in Plymouth.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So what makes something DIY? Like, is it just like someone rents out like a warehouse?
Independently owned. Yeah, just
Oh, okay.
independently owned.
Oh, okay. Then we definitely
Like
have.
like yeah, like owned
Yeah.
by one guy or a couple of people, and the kids kind of run it.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, the
I was
kids
thinking
book
more
it and promote.
like a illegal rave kind of thing is what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That too, like warehouse shows. Where
Yeah.
shows
So
are always fun.
um so how did Dead Cross come about? Like how did you get involved with Justin you were in Retox with,
Yep.
but then how did you get involved with Mike and is the drummer's name Dave? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm terrible with names, so I'm glad I so how did you get
Dave
involved with those?
Lombardo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've seen
Uh.
Mike and Dave in concert multiple times. I've gone to see,
Yeah.
Mr. Bungle and Faith No More.
Uh huh. Justin had worked with Ross on Head Wound City. They recorded with Ross, and Ross had a studio project. It was supposed to be Dave's band film, but they broke up. So Dave had the studio time booked with Ross. And Dave was like, dude, I'm so sorry, we're gonna have to cancel that time. The band broke up. And he's like, well, don't worry about any money or anything like that. Just do me a favor and play drums on a friend of mine's daughter's 2 demo songs. And hey, no, stop that. And so Dave said yes. And then they Ross got Justin in there. Ross really loves Justin's bass style and tones, and Justin's and Ross was like, shit, we need a good guitarist. And I think first they wanted Cody. I'm not sure if Cody was available. Cody from Blood Brothers and Headwind City. If I'm remembering the story correctly, Cody wasn't available, and then hold on a second. No, hey, let go. No, no. And then and he's like, well, what about, dude? It'd be rad to get Mike Crain from Retox at Retox Guitarist or whatever. And then Justin hit me up and was like, hey, would you be down to do a studio session with me and Dave Lombardo? And I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And and I showed up. We did a couple songs for this girl. Her name's Poppy. Uh, Poppy Crawford. Really talented. She's badass. And Dave was out like, I think Dave was just recently out of Slayer
Yeah.
and had a lot of free time on his hands at that moment. And I was like, dude, let's start a band. Fuck it. This will be fun. And Ross was like, do it. And Dave was like, okay. And Ross was like, you guys need to record a record right now. Start writing songs. And then Justin had mentioned getting Gabe Serbian in on vocals to sing or to scream rather.
Yeah.
Gabe Serbian was an incredibly charismatic individual.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we really tailored the first record, the songs more old school thrash. That's what we had in mind.
Yeah.
It didn't really turn like it, the band kind of, we turned out a little more gothy than that. And then Gabe had to step out of the band, the project, for family reasons, personal reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and Lombardo was like, well, let me hit up Patton and see if he's interested. Because Justin and I, we didn't know who to get for vocals. We were like, well, we could either Travis Ryan, he was super into it, Greg Puciato, but he was really busy at the time with Dillinger. And Yeah, and the rest is history. Patton loved the songs, man, and he fucking took those songs to another level
He's
vocally.
to me, I think he's one of the greatest vocalists that I've ever heard, and he can
I think you're right.
he can go from
That was,
screaming
yep,
to ballad singing and back without even
yep.
breaking stride. It's amazing.
I would totally have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how like you were talking and about like, oh, this person floated in and floated out, and it was making me think of the music scene around here. Are the days gone of where like you make one band and then that band stays together and then breaks up? Is it now just like you have one project here and one project over
Mm-hmm.
here, and you play guitar here and you guest spot on this person's album? It seems like that is kind of, I don't know if it's a trend or it's just a new way of how things
No,
work.
I think there's still, I don't know. I think if your early band is successful enough and big enough and keeps you engaged enough, then yeah, you don't necessarily need to do other projects or but a lot of times other projects are just with friends, just for fun. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other examples, but I don't really yeah, I don't know if you were to look like U2, for example, like in
Yeah.
their heyday, I doubt those guys were in other projects,
Right.
like
Yeah. And
they
but then
were
you,
probably so busy and that band was, you know what I mean? Like I'm
mhm.
sure at that time, when you quote unquote made it, that was all you had time for. Like
Yeah.
that was your job, your full-time job in life. So yeah, it might have been different.
Yeah. And then you get someone like Patton who's in 1,000 different projects, or like the scene in the 90s in Chicago where like there's Ministry and Pigface and
Yeah.
Screw and all these bands that just kind of like shared members. And it just seemed like every time there was a different batch of guys in the recording studio, they're like, all right, this band is called whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. I've done yeah. Yeah.
do you think that kind of keeps your creative juices fresh because it gives you more options? So you don't get kind of
Sometimes.
stuck in that, oh, we have to play this one successful song over and over again until the day I die.
Yeah, I've never had one successful song, so I don't really know.
But I
You
mean
know what
that's
I mean?
but I mean
Like,
that's kind of like that double-edged sword where like I think every kid who picks up guitar wants to be a rock star, but then you talk to like rock stars who have that huge hit and they're like, yeah, I mean, now I have to play that one song at every show I ever do because it's the song that people want to hear.
yeah, but I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, if it pays your bills and it
Yeah,
keeps
for sure.
fans engaged, shit,
Yeah.
that's a great thing. If you gotta, if you're fortunate enough to have that one song.
And
Yeah.
so is Dead Cross's album, I apologize, either just came out or is it coming out?
Comes out next week, I think. No, let me look at the calendar. 28th.
The 28th. So this will be
10
up just so it'll be coming out at the end of this week when this airs, because this will air next Monday. So where can our
comes out next week.
yeah. So where can our listeners go to find the album? Is it going to be on vinyl? That seems to be a
Yeah.
big thing now.
Oh yeah, everywhere. Definitely. Ipecac is great with their marketing and not marketing, but their physical releases. The album has really good art, a lot of different variants, different colors, everything. Also cassette and CD and streaming. So it'll be available
You
everywhere.
guys are doing cassette?
Yeah, I
Why?
have some already. They look fucking. Those are a big thing again.
Really?
Yeah, for collectors, totally.
No kidding.
Yep,
They weren't great. I didn't love
I know.
cassettes. That's so strange.
I mean, they got me through childhood. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
But that just seems, what's next? 8-track?
I doubt it. Those really sucked.
And Dead Cross, I'm sure, has website, social media, that sort of thing, where people can go check you out, find out where you're touring.
Yeah. We just typically use the Instagram or the Facebook,
Yeah.
our Facebook, like either account, and but also Ipecac. If you go to Ipecac, their website. Come on, Jack. Let's go. Yeah.
And then for our listeners on the East Coast, they should check out Fiddlar when they come to town. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Does not sound like Dead Cross.
No, totally different.
No.
I love that. See, that's one of my favorite things is, I very eclectic music taste. So that's awesome.
I mean, they're a fucking killer band, Fiddlar. It's just, it's more indie, a lot of surf influence.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mike, I want to say thank you for taking the time to chat with us. Yeah, it was fun. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Anytime you guys have something to promote, feel free to reach out. We're always looking for guests, and hopefully our listeners will check out the new album, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, brother. Man.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.